much, and can you all hear me at the back? So it's coming through the mic. I do have a habit of wandering, so just force me back if I do wander off for any particular reason. First of all, I want to say thank you for, particularly Ronan, who was my main contact for inviting me, but also the rest of the organising panel and the sponsors, Foster, etc., of the event today. Certainly, I found it very useful this morning, so hopefully you all have as well. So, as I kind of alluded to just before, I'm going to be talking today about library training, support, and guidance in RDM. Hopefully, I can get this to work. Yeah. Okay, so today's session kind of similar to a lot of the other sessions you heard this morning, but there's going to be a little introduction and background, although I've kind of shot my bolt on who I am really. And then, as Breda said, I'm going to cover both Loughborough University and the University of Exeter because I've only been at Loughborough for a month and 6 days, and I was at Exeter as a student and staff for 16 years before that, and in a research data role for 4 years at Loughborough, or research data support role at 4 years at Exeter. Sorry, if I ever say the wrong thing, just read the slide. If I give the wrong email address, just read the slide. I'll also be covering training, support and guidance as in the session, and also I'll have some, if we've got a bit of time, is it connected to the net? Yeah. If we've got a bit of time, I can show you some of the just example materials that we've created both at Exeter and at Loughborough, but we'll play that by ear as regards to time. So I say, just to give a bit of introduction and background about myself, as I said, I've recently been appointed as a research data manager at Loughborough, although I've been in a research data management or research data management support role since 2011. My research background is a PhD in maritime history, which I got in 2008. So as a maritime historian, I'm always glad to see the old weather examples being shown up of what the ship's logbooks can do. And history and humanities is actually important. It's not just all about STEM, although obviously STEM people are now using them. The interesting thing for myself, seeing both institutions, is actually the similarities between the two institutions. Even though Loughborough is traditionally a STEM-based engineering and sports science, the two major things that Loughborough is really known for. And Exeter has traditionally been more of an arts and humanities or social science university, but increasingly a STEM and medicine aspects to it as well. The similarities in the training that's been offered and who's been offering that training has been quite apparent to me, really. And also, I think, in terms of providing training, support and guidance, it kind of comes back to, so I didn't catch the lady's name, but what we were talking about a bit before. You need to identify why you are providing the training, why you're providing the guidance and why you're providing the support. And it can't just be because the funding body says we have to do this. There has to be more to it than that, really. You also need to identify who the training is aimed at. Obviously, if I'm training or if I'm speaking to a group of librarians, it will be a different presentation and arguably a different message. So if I'm speaking to a group of PhD students, and again, it's different if I'm speaking to a group of early career researchers or a group of senior professors or senior PIs on funded projects. So there are similarities, but the presentations and the training does change as to who you're talking to. Before I carry on, and sorry for audience participation, how many of you would see yourself as librarians? Okay. How many IT? Ooh. How many research? Outnumbering IT for change. And how many research office? Just the invited speaker. Okay. The reason I'm asking that is because also it depends who's given the training and what already exists, how to promote the training. Librarians tend to promote training, as possibly we've alluded to before, in different ways to IT staff and possibly in different ways to research office. And also librarians, in my experience, I don't want to speak to everybody else, traditionally tend to be focused more on the student, and again, I'm stereotyping and generalizing, but possibly more on the student and postgraduate support, IT, thinking they support everybody, and research office, well, whether they do or not, and research office possibly aim more at the postgraduate research, but particularly the early career researchers and the established academics. I know that's a small generalization, but I think there is a difference there as to which areas, which aspects or research the different areas of a university have traditionally been focused on. And also, although, I mean, who really knows what the answer to the last bullet point there is, what does the successful training actually look like? Something I'll try and cover today. I aim to speak for about 15-20 minutes, or I'll possibly run over as usual. So hopefully there'll be a bit of time for questions and for you to tell me how I'm wrong at the end of the presentation today. So to do Loughborough first, because that's where I am at the moment. The training, support and guidance is primarily led by funder requirements, but it's also seen as promoting the research of the university. So it's not just the stick, the carrot aspect is very important to Loughborough, particularly the visibility side. As we've alluded to, it's interdepartmental. So you've got the library, you've got IT, and you've got the research office, which I know we only had a brief conversation there, but I think the research office, as was mentioned this morning, is actually a very important spoke in any research data service. And certainly within the UK, it's not unheard of. There's probably about 5 or 6 of the major, in inverted commas, research support services are actually led by the research office. They're not led by the library or by IT, so it's led by the research office. Loughborough, you'll see on the next slide, it's quite similar, but Loughborough is aimed at PGR, so postgraduate research students upwards. We don't focus on master's students or undergraduates for training on research data management. I can't speak for why that is at Loughborough, but when I come on to Exeter, it's primarily in terms of resource, time, and there's far too many of them for 1 or 2 people to actually cover all MSc or MA students. So I say at Loughborough, it's PGRs, postgraduate research students, researchers, so people like postdocs, research fellows, and then academics, lecturers, professors, established career academics and researchers, really. In terms of, and when I say promotion, this is advertising rather than promoting a person getting promoted. Loughborough, and again, you see on the next slide, Loughborough, we try and use existing groups. So for example, there's the Research Staff Association at Loughborough. So if we've got a training session we want to give, we let the Research Staff Association know, so we can also advertise and promote the session through that group. You can use existing programs as well, so postgraduate development, social media, and then direct contact of, in our case, EPSRC, the Engineering and Physical Sciences Research Council, because the 1st of May in the UK is the date that all universities are concerned about at the moment. What happens on the 2nd of May? We'll have to find another date to be worried about. But probably whenever EPSRC start auditing us, that'll be when we start worrying. But I say using the existing groups is important, because in many cases, they're trusted means of communication to researchers and postgraduate students. It also means that you don't have to do all the promotion and advertising of training sessions or support sessions yourself. So you can spread that workload around. If emails or newsletters or the like are already going out about training sessions on, say, the postgraduate development courses, what's the point of you sending out another session? It's better to look integrated in with something that already exists, rather than being seen as a bespoke specialist type service. Because one of the things I'm certainly very keen on wherever I've worked is that research data management shouldn't just be seen as something that what a group of people do. It's not just research data management. It's part of the whole, as we heard this morning, the research life cycle. And in many cases, a lot of what's being advertised and promoted as research data management, most academics are actually doing anyway. Whether they realize it or not, whether they call it research data management or not, most academics are actually doing, certainly up until the archiving and preserving aspect, are actually doing research data management as it is. And for Loughborough success, and again, measuring this and the like is difficult, it's seen as an increased awareness of the advantages that good RDM research data management can bring to an individual or a group's research. So again, it's trying to promote that carrot aspect rather than the stick aspect, again, alluding to what we heard about this morning. Exeter, various things. It's led by funder requirements. At Exeter, we were lucky enough to be awarded funding under the JISC MRD. Ironically, although it's known as Research Data Management, the JISC program was managing research data, so it's same initials but different way around. So under the JISC MRD program, that was an 18-month program. That's where I first came on-to research data management aspects. I think we were one of about 18 universities to get institutional-wide. I think it was only England and Welsh universities, so not Scottish. I don't think Northern Irish either. No. So I say we were lucky enough to get that almost funded money, prime funded money to get us going. Again, it's interdepartmental at Exeter, so you've got the library, you've got the IT, and you've got the research office. It's aimed at anyone doing research. And promotion is very similar, and success was seen as an increased awareness of funder policies and expectations, as well as an awareness of good RDM principles. So you can see it's kind of the same in terms of what is success, but slightly different emphasis and slightly different profile. You'll see a lot of these Loughborough Exeter, Loughborough Exeter. Requirements gathering and preparation. As I said at the start, it's important to know what you need to give training on, and also in many ways what types of training are best suited for different researchers, different academic groups around the various universities. And this is where I can't remember which speaker it was said this morning. It may have been Stuart. Apologies if it was one of the other two. That a one-size-fits-all doesn't necessarily work. So what I say works well at Loughborough and works well at Exeter may not work well at UCC, may not work well at Queen's, may not work well at Trinity. So it's take best practice and then moderate it and modify it for your own specific circumstances at your institution. Anyway, at Loughborough, this is all this Loughborough stuff was before I turned up, so I can't take credit or blame. They conducted a survey of the data requirements across the university. They had training by the digital curation staff of the academic librarians or subject librarians or academic support librarians. It's the liaison team between the library and the academics. They also had a Loughborough researcher who came to speak to the academic librarians about their data issues and their data needs. So again, it's getting in many ways getting the target audience to come and speak to you to work out what the target audience actually needs and actually requires. And I think that's a key aspect which I'll come back to in a bit. And again, more recently, it was actually 2 days after I started, the library ran a day in the life of a researcher session for all library staff, so not just academic librarians. And that included the 5 academics who spoke, researchers who spoke, were given a list of things, please cover this. And one of those was data management. So again, it's getting, as I say, getting that target audience coming to talk to you, and you can then talk to them on a level. At Exeter, they ran a they ran when I was there, a survey of college-level computer development officers. So they are based within the academic. Exeter's got what's known as a hub and spoke system. So you've got central services, and then you've got also 6 comparatively strong academic colleges based around different academic disciplines. So these college-level CDOs aren't based at the centre, they're actually based out with the academics. There was a survey of them, of data storage and archiving needs. Although again, as we heard this morning, how long's a piece of string? You can run a survey, 10% of academics can reply, or the CDOs can talk to 10, 15% of their academics. It could be the other 85, 90% of academics that have the really large data. So it's difficult to actually get an idea of quite how much storage is required by researchers at various institutions. At Exeter, we also ran a modified, as you heard this morning about the data audit framework, we ran a modified data asset framework. And if you are particularly interested, the results are available in Exeter's, so I'll try not to talk whilst looking away, are available in Exeter's institutional repository. And that also included interviews with academics. So again, it was that requirements analysis, requirements gathering, and we made a conscious decision to very much go out and say, right, tell us what you need. We went out with a blank page, really, with we had some ideas of what we thought the academics were going to say, but we went out with an open mind, a clear page, really, and it's tell us what you need, and we'll do our best to provide that for you, rather than being seen as central services going out saying, this is what we're going to provide you, go and work with it. Well, that's what we ended up with is a different matter, but we went out with that idea of tell us what you need. So we ran training sessions, and they were, at least initially and partly, led by DCC staff. So again, both Loughborough and Exeter got digital curation centre staff out to come and talk to our staff. And we also had UKDS, is the UK Data Service, which is based at the University of Essex in Essex. I'm not sure where it's based actually. But they are specialists on social science research. So the UKDS is the repository for Economic and Social Research Council. So vast majority of social science research will go to the UKDS. We also at Exeter help with the creation of research group level RDM policies. And you can see example of that on the Exeter's institutional repository, which is called OR. The advantage of that is it helps us build up communications and contacts with research groups, but it's also a good way for us to find out, again, what was going on in particular disciplines and in particular research groups, which comes back to, so I can't remember who asked it, I think the question that I kind of answered before. Different disciplines have different needs and different requirements. You talk to a physicist, they will have different requirements to a medic, for example, or a politician or historian. So there are differences. Okay, both universities have policy. Exeter's is published, Loughborough's is still in draft, and you'll probably see fairly common similarities with the Edinburgh policy, to be honest, on vast majority of UK research data policies. The important thing to, well, two important things to note is that both state that the university is responsible for provision of training, etc. It doesn't state the library. And both institutions consulted academics and researchers during the formulation of the policy. So again, it wasn't something that was seen as imposed on the academics. It was done in consultation with academics. And it wasn't just the really senior academics that were consulted. It was, in inverted commas, more junior colleagues as well. Types of training. Again, this is quite a high level, because I've only got the 20 minutes. It's quite a high level talk, so you can always grab me later if you want a bit more details. Both institutions, as I said, because of the split between STEM and HASS almost between the two unis, both institutions, use very similar types of training. So they do large sessions, and when I say large, I mean not this large, we're talking 20 to 30 if they all turn up. Aimed at a particular type of research, i.e. you'll aim it at the PGI, you'll aim it at the postdoc, you'll aim it at the PI, although you tend to get less engagement with PIs than you do with the more junior colleagues. There's also, at both institutions, presentation at institution-wide events. So, for example, Loughborough University, the Research Staff Association ran, I believe it was a couple of days on research support at the institution. And Loughborough, they spoke on that about research data management. And at Exeter, we ran a couple of sessions, what was known as the Research Focus Week. So again, it's getting in on those pre-existing things that already exist that help your promotion and get you seen, and also get research data seen as something that is not a normal, as much as I hate that phrase. So it's not something extra, it's the normal. Both institutions give presentations to research groups and departmental staff meetings. Again, another way to try and get, particularly the departmental staff meetings, as many academics in one room as possible. Because I mean, those of you, particularly those of you who are librarians, you know how hard it is to get more than about 3 or 4 academics into a room at any one time. They'll always claim there's another meeting or something going on. Both, if this is being recorded, I don't mean that. Both types of training, both universities have web-based materials. They've both got online websites. The Exeter one, until yesterday, was open, but they've put it behind a single sign-on now, so you won't be able to see that one. And the Loughborough one is quite basic at the moment, but we're hoping to expand that in the next few months. Loughborough also use their VLE, virtual learning environments. They've got a module called Research Central. So that's only available to Loughborough University, but if anyone wants, I could give you a sneak preview off camera a bit later if you want to. And also, as I said, both institutions utilised existing training strands, so the UK Data Service or the Digital Curation Centre. So I think that's quite an important aspect. Contents of training sessions, insert the research life cycle there really. Again, both institutions, both areas, these are the broad areas, and then you can focus in on a bit more if you want a bit more detail. But you basically can include what is RDM, what's research data management, benefits of research data management. I say that it's important to keep emphasizing as much as possible the benefits and not just, as we talked about this morning, and not just the sticks. The carrots are important. And if you can get quotes and the like from senior academics saying how they've got co-authorships or collaborations that are making their research data available, that actually works very well as well, because it can be seen as that's research data and archiving data in practice. Data storage, data backup, data sharing, and reuse of data as well. And you run these in consultation with research office, with IT colleagues, or with academics as well. As I said, this should cover the whole data lifecycle. And we call it the data lifecycle, but you can almost think of it as the research lifecycle and where the data aspects fit into that research lifecycle. So I've not got too long to go, don't worry. In terms of supporting guidance, who does this? At Loughborough, as I was saying, it's very much an interdisciplinary, interdepartmental work. So you've got the research office, the library, and IT. And within the library, you've got the research data manager, well, since March anyway, which is myself. But the academic librarians, the liaison librarians, also do a lot of the training for open access and data management, actually. I say we also use IT staff. There's also the institutional repository managers, who we've trained up, or we are in the process of training up, as that's a job share, so it's actually only one FTE, as mitigation in case I happen to be off or leave again somewhere to go somewhere else. And also we're setting up a generic email address at Loughborough with a named person, so they can say that, or you're contacting Gareth or you're contacting whoever, but it's a generic email address. So if I do happen to go on holiday for a week, other people can pick it up, so it's not going into a dead email box. Exeter, very similar, generic email address with named people again. And so Exeter called them subject librarians, but academic librarians, it's the same team. Support and guidance. This is where it's slightly different in emphasis. Loughborough, you heard about DMP Online this morning from a couple of the speakers. Loughborough has specific guidance on DMP Online as well, so Loughborough specific guidance. And we're also piloting, as of Monday, was when we first got visibility of it, a data repository service. And I guess that's between library IT and academic schools. And that's using Figshare, Archivum, and going forward, symplectic elements as well. So it'll all be integrated together. So hopefully academics, rather than where we heard this morning, they enter metadata in more than one place. The aim, I think, and it's the aim at Exeter as well, was to reduce the burden, reduce the workload on academics as much as possible. So if they have to enter information in one place, then we can automatically capture that information and put it into another system rather than having to put exactly the same information into another system. And there's also a copyright officer based within the library. At Exeter, we didn't actually, for time reasons, put specific guidance onto DMP Online, but we did advise on a face-to-face service for advising on data management plans. I think we got to about 85 DMPs by the time I left. So it's only a small percentage of actual grants, but it was building up over time. I say we had a one-stop shop, I can never say that quickly, website, including funder-specific guides for DMP. So I basically wrote a guide for EPSRC, I wrote a guide for ESRC. When I say I wrote, I borrowed heavily from Bristol for those and changed the branding at the top and added credit to Bristol. We also, at Exeter, again, it was lucky because we had the GIST project, and we'd worked with 6 or 7 PGR students on that GIST project, and they were volunteered, forced to write an RDM survival guide. So it was seen as researcher to researcher, again, that peer-to-peer aspect rather than central services telling you, or some unknown figure in the middle telling you that this is what you should do. It was someone who's been through exactly the same situation as you being a PGR student, has thought that these are the things that would be interesting, useful for you to know. We also created a leaflet. I think you saw Jonathan Ted's yesterday, or those of you who are here heard from Jonathan Ted's yesterday. That puzzle by research data management is very similar to the Leicester leaflet and credits it accordingly. And we advised and supported data deposits to the institutional repository. We will also be doing that to Loughborough, but obviously only got it on Monday, and the first demo session to academics is tomorrow afternoon. So hopefully it works. And again, Exeter also got the copyright officer based in the library. I think most copyright officers are either based in the library or at least strong links with the library. Okay, a couple of quickies. Potential issues. I mean, we kind of covered that just now and briefly in the panel. Sustainability, moving from project to service, I think is quite a key thing. There is a danger of creating silos, kind of, again, alluding to the question, what happens if the RDM expert or experts leave and you've created that nice little empire for yourself and then nobody else has a clue what goes on? What happens when you leave? Engagement, so again, issues, it was one of those challenges we saw just now. Researching community, senior management, and also peers. And resourcing. If you've got a limited amount of resource, what is the most important thing for your institution to focus on? Is it on training? Is it on advising on DMPs? Is it assisting with data deposits? And ultimately, that will come down to what are the priorities for that particular institution. Lessons learned, and again, I think this is something I can't emphasize enough. Working collaboratively across the institution. So it's library, IT, research office, and research active staff. And I think that fourth aspect is important. It's not just the support services. Work as closely as possible, as closely as you can, with the research active staff. Don't reinvent the wheel. I mean, both at Loughborough and Exeter, we're using other people's resources and, I say, crediting accordingly. Use DCC stuff, So I'm speaking from a UK perspective, but we've got the DCC, there's JISC, there's the UK Data Service, there's loads of these examples, and they're as relevant to Irish institutions in most cases as they are to UK institutions. Sessions like this, talk to others doing a similar role at other institutions. No one person or no one institution has got this right yet, or 100% right anyway. So talk to other institutions, find out what works well there, and then, as I said, take that back to your institution and modify it and fit it to your institution. Don't be afraid, as if you ask me any questions, I'm sure I'll say this at least once. Don't be afraid to say, I'm not sure, can I get back to you? It's a moving playing field. Everybody's moving the goalpost left, right and centre. Things are changing. Don't worry about not knowing necessarily. It's better to give a more correct answer rather than a correct answer, a more correct answer in a day's time than it is to give an incorrect answer, which then the rumours spread around the... It's amazing how quickly rumours spread around the academic community, but not necessarily when the training session is. Share resources across institutions if possible. And as we heard this morning, identify friendly academic contacts. I don't have time because I'm probably over already. For example, materials, but when the slides are available, you'll probably be able to see most of the Exeter ones, although I think those top two are now behind a single sign-on. But you'll certainly be able to see the bottom one. If anyone does want to look at the Loughborough sites, just let me know and I can log on and show you. Thank you very much. Oh, sorry, I should say, I also wrote with my old boss at Exeter, University of Exeter Research Data Management and Open Access Training Staff for Alice Quarterly. So if you do want to read, well, it's actually available in the Exeter repository as well, but I'm now at Loughborough, so read it in the Loughborough one, please. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much, Gareth. That's a great picture of how people can support researchers at their institutions. Does anybody have any specific questions for Gareth? I suppose I just had one myself. You mentioned that you did a requirements gathering exercise, and I just wasn't clear on whether was that like with a collaborative group, so like was it something that the library just took off on their own, or was it that you worked with maybe IT services and the research office to talk to researchers together, or how did that happen?
Okay, yeah, I mean the main aspect of the requirements gathering was a survey, electronic survey based around the data asset framework. So that was part of the JISC project, so it's Research Office, IT, Library. We also got college deans, so academic heads of the college, to send emails to their colleagues. One from the Deputy Vice Chancellor of Research as well. So it was seen as an important thing for the institution, which just adds that extra layer of credibility really to what you're trying to do. And we got to think about, I can't remember off the top of my head, it's about a 10 to 15% return rate from researchers and academics across the uni, which we were pretty happy with, to be honest. For an online survey that took 25 minutes to fill in, we were pretty happy with that response rate. Well, ecstatic actually with that response rate.
That's great, thanks very much, guys.